Hi guys and welcome back. In this video we're going to look at how to connect to SQLite using Python. We've already seen the presentation that covers the theory behind doing this. Now we're just going to write the code for it. Just as a reminder, we've got here our app.py with our two functions, one to prompt for a new entry to the user and one to display entries given as a parameter. And then we've got our menu that just asks the user over and over for their options and also gets the entries from the database to display in here. The prompt new entry adds entries to the database as well. So we've got our two functions, add entry and get entries, in database.py that add a new entry to this entries list or get the entries from the entries list and return it. Now we're going to modify these functions so that instead of a list, we've got a SQLite table. So the first thing we're going to do, as discussed in the presentation, is we are going to go ahead and create a connection. So we'll do connection equal SQLite3.connect. And the file is going to be data.db. Once we do this, we no longer need the entries list, but we do need to import SQLite3 instead. So now we've got that. Let's save. Notice that any underlines and stuff should disappear at this point. If you get any errors saying SQLite3 module not found or something like that, and then ask away in the course Q&A for this, because SQLite3 should come with Python. There should be nothing that you have to install at this point. Now notice that our functions do complain that the entries list doesn't exist, and that's because we now have to change this to use the connection and data.db for the table. So that we don't have to go into data.db ourselves with the SQLite viewer, I'm also going to create a third function to create the table that we need. So we'll have a create table function, and in here we're going to do connection.execute, and we will create table entries, and we'll give the two columns that we need, the content and the date. So content text and date text. Remember from the presentation that this is how we execute a query using Python. Now that we're connected to SQLite 3, we can go ahead and run the create table function. However, it's important to remember that we need to commit the transaction that this runs in, as we've learned. So it's important to put this in the context manager like that, or alternatively, you can go back and do a connection commit. Either of those is fine. I do prefer the context manager approach though, so I'm going to go for that. Now remember, if you run the code at this point, it's not going to work because we've got rid of the entries list. We need to learn a little bit more before we can add content to these functions that uses a database. So over the next few videos, we're going to learn how to insert data and how to retrieve data, and we're going to fill in these functions as we go along. But I'm sure you can imagine that this is going to be fairly straightforward. There's going to be one query that runs in here to add data to the database, and there's going to be one query that runs in here to retrieve data from the database. But we just have to learn a few more things before we delve into that. So, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Let's get to it.